about your teaching, you're sharing videos, you're doing everything that you're sharing lessons, that kind of thing. And then we're also seeing that as the place for pedagogical content knowledge plus the SAT, so aligning that skill with the content. So for just a brief moment, I'm going to talk about SAT and where we are and what's going on. So first I want to just point out, I think that I'm going to talk about the SAT, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a rabbit hole I went down this summer, but I also want to make sure I frame, I think the SAT is a better test than the ACT was for our students. I know ACT is actually labeled an achievement test, and the SAT is considered a content and reasoning test. So as we go into the third year of it, year 2, it's been around for 3 years. Year 0, we were still learning. This is the year that the state gets to decide if they keep the ACT or SAT, and I'm really hoping they keep the SAT. I know when I was teaching AP US history, when I rewrote all my reading tests for Fridays, it actually was a lot better thinking through SAT and thinking through the SAT skills like using text, using evidence from text, than the ACT's 35 minutes for reading messages. That being said, this summer at the leadership retreat, I was talking to profs about what do we value, why do we value things, and then in July I went with Pam to this really awesome conference. It's called Building Learning Communities. And those two things together, one, I was thinking about the value, why do we value the SAT, and two, at the Building Learning Communities, I almost had a full-on meltdown over just issues of equity in education in general, right? That we're sitting at this conference and Pam and I are listening to this guy go on and talk about all these amazing things, and I'm like, this is amazing, and then I was like, I don't know if this will ever be possible for the type of building and school I'm in. And so then I had this like epic meltdown, and Pam dragged me out of the ballroom after the keynote speaker, which I really appreciate because I think I might have, it was practically a puzzle. It was kind of a mess. But it did send me down a rabbit hole of why the SAT, because one of the things they're talking about is this push towards test optional. UC in particular this year is going test optional, right? Test optional comes in a lot of forms. Some are test blind, some are kids can choose to submit it. There's all these different things. So I wanted to know, are we picking the wrong thing? Are we not thinking around the right thing? Because I know as a teacher, like when I think of my best day, it's not talking about the SAT. It's talking about, I was talking to Joshua this morning, it was like when we did the elastic clause from the Constitution. I feel like it's a day that stands out to me, which is the better part, and how do we balance this concept of content and joy and classrooms and everything else, and are we missing something? So, I'm going to share you my rabbit hole just for a moment. If you are interested in this, please come find me. I don't want to take up a ton of time with my crazy, like John Nash notes that I have on this stuff. So I started with, I have a friend who is a researcher at the American Institute of Research. And so I called Amy and I was like, dude, this guy talked about test optional and how we want our kids to be interesting and smart and kind. And I'm like, yeah, especially as a parent, I'm like, that's what I care about now. But I also want my kid to go to college. So where is this landing? And she actually sent me a bunch of research. And what it came down to, it's a small, I'm going to post it so you can see it. What it came down to is there's only like 4 or 5 major studies right now around test optional. And there's this push towards this paradigm shift at the college level. Like, we can shift the college admissions process, we'll shift high schools. The struggle is that the research is a little iffy as to if it's actually good for students. There's 2 studies, one that shows that test optional enhances the perceived selectivity of a school, but it doesn't actually impact the student body in terms of racial diversity, in terms of kids who can afford, like the needs-based merit, first-generation college, gender. None of it's actually impacted on their who's going there. It also really, really varies by the institution. I have absolutely no doubt that UC is going to do a fantastic job with this because it's University of Chicago. They have resources, they have an endowment that's out of control. Like, they are ready to try this and do this. It's going to be a lot harder for UIC than UOC. And a big push is around grades. The correlation between a kid's GPA and their college success is high. There's a high correlation. We know that, we talk about it all the time. But there's also a lot of studies out that show that there is what they call a compression around the high end of grades. And what they meant, what the study was saying was that we're seeing more and more kids have a B plus to A average, particularly in affluent white schools, right? So what that means is that at New Trier, their GPA is not on a bell curve, right? Like 75% of their kids have a B plus average or above. And that's different than our kids, and that's different than our network. So there's all these different pieces that go into college admissions that I'm still not quite sure the impact on our students. And I'm not really willing to totally be like, not to let go of the wheel until somebody has enough research that shows that my kids, the kids that are sitting in my building, are impacted by not doing the SAT. So then I was like, okay, what about the SAT? Is it being used? And I dug in, these are not, we've seen this, I'm not like giving you guys like brand new information, but this is from NACAC. They track a lot of college admissions. And NACAC shows, great, it's GPA, that's why we talk about GPA all the time, we'll talk more about it, we'll talk about grading, but then it's test scores. Test scores is the second most utilized thing in admissions process, and other schools that use test scores, 54% of them say it is how they put it, it's a considerable importance. It's something that's really important to them, right? So from an access point, the SAT really matters. Now we may see a paradigm shift, but not for the class of 2019, right? This SAT still matters. Then I was like, okay, so you get into college, and the next access point is how do you pay for it? I'm not from Illinois, so when I hear UI, I always think Iowa, because that's where most of my classes went to college. So I was like, I actually don't know how much UI costs. And that's my in-state school. I have two little kids, and like that's where they'll probably go, because I saw how much Boston College costs, which is where I went. I was like, yeah. Then I saw how much UI cost, and I almost fell off my chair, right? UI, they anticipate next year, will be $36,000 a year. Now, I'm old, for this room, not for the world, but for this room, I'm a little older, and so like context, but when I went to Boston College my first year, it was about 10 grand less than that, right? So if you think about this is the in-state option for our kids. For our kids that are sitting in front of us, their in-state option is $36,000 a year. And if you're like, well, they can go to UIC and live at home, tuition is $14,000 at UI, or UIC. Right, Teddy? Same thing. Right? So now I'm like, well, shit, they need SAT to get in, and then how are they going to pay for it? And I pulled up last year because I was like, oh, well, maybe there's tons of need-based scholarship. I know we talk a lot about the EFC and the changes, but when you pull up from last year, 2 years ago, right? The amount of money that broke down, this is from U of I's website, that breaks down between merit scholarships and need-based scholarships. Need-based is a little bit more, but they're getting closer to 50-50 on merit and need-based, and every merit-based scholarship on the U of I website includes the SAT score. And the higher the SAT score, the more money they get, right? So like, just eking it out, another 10 to 20 points actually puts you into another scholarship range to, again, pay for this, right? This should scare the living crap out of all of us. I'm sorry, I can't get over it. I'm still trying to figure out, like, can I get my kid small, he's really uncoordinated, if I have him kick field goals for the next 13 years, could he possibly get a scholarship through that? I mean, he's not going to be an athlete, so I'm trying to figure it out.
I can also put this into context. If a student gets a 26 on the ACT and they'll convert it, at U of I, you automatically get an extra $10,000 of merit-based aid. So that 26 threshold, as college counselors, if we see that, we're like, okay, they can afford this.
10 grand. 25 to 26 is $10,000. Right?
And it's not just to piggyback on that, it's not just U of I, all state schools have it, it just is lower for the less selective schools. Like every state
Like
school
Western has it, ISU has
We
it.
should
like
make
all of our
signs
students
with
are
that,
taking
with that. Like,
10,000.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, if it's like, hey, you should grow 10 more
In the
points.
classroom?
It's like, no, you should earn $10,000 more dollars.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a very real thing.
And I looked at some of our other schools that our kids go to too, like U of M and Wisconsin. Some of the smaller liberal arts colleges have a little bit more flexibility. Like you get in, they'll figure out how to get you there because they really want you. But those are also like Sarah Lawrence and like different schools that our kids are not highly represented at. The schools that our kids are highly represented at, and until they can figure out the next way to get kids in and figure out how to get money to, it's boiling down to GPA and test scores at the base. So that was my rabbit hole of craziness. Thank you also, Kruger. I called Kruger like 3 times in the last 2 days, and also had a panic attack over that. So I wanted to like give you that regrounding of like, I recognize that the SAT is a test. It's just one number, and it's not who our kids are. Our kid is not the SAT, but the SAT is going to give our kids an opportunity to get into and pay for where they want to go. And I think that is the key to thinking around why we're setting these goals that are concrete. So we're keeping the same composite because after a long discussion with academic approach and a network, this is a baseline. But I also noticed like the data that Sarah put up, this is the baseline to get into like ISU and UIC, like this is like our baseline to get our kids into schools that then they can get money to get into. Again, the higher they are, the more they can apply for different scholarships and get more merit-based aid on top of their need-based aid. The thing that we're going to talk and think around a lot more this year is the growth. So our kids are, that average kind of hides a lot of things, right? It hides our lower kids, it hides our higher kids, it hides, is this population doing well and this one isn't? Is our EL kids, which is a lot of our kids, are they getting what they need? Are our kids with IEPs getting, there's all these different populations, and you can break them into sextiles, you can do all these different things, and I think the network's getting a lot better at that, and so we're trying to leverage that, and we're working with academic approach on that. But overall, our goals, the goals we set, goals for growth, the 40 points in reading and writing, and then the overall 150 for math, those are actually on track according to academic approaches research, and they're a lot smarter than I am, so I believe them. But some of our growth last year is where we're like, okay, this is where we need to pinpoint. We had some huge hotspots and bright spots. Like I cannot, math team, like, yeah. Every kid, like EL, SPED, our general population, because math was doing really great, and so like, I'm not saying we're not growing when we need to, I'm saying this is where we need to double down. And that's what we're gonna work on this year, in particular on specific group of kids. How are we getting to the kids who are sitting in front of us? These exact children, right? And the network's really working on that with us as well. And I've talked briefly to the department chairs around it. We're gonna work on it some more, we're gonna dig into the data, and we'll continue to have this be a fluid discussion. But we know the composite's pretty straightforward, right? And I know a lot of people remind me, like, me and Mollie, the only thing that colleges care about is that final number. And that's totally true. They don't, it's not like you have to like send in your pre-SAT score, although you can write in a letter of rec. I always use like 4 lines on like their growth because I never know what the hell to write for some kids. So they're like, look how fast I grew. But the growth is where we're gonna have to double down and really think through, because again, like for every point, it adds up to money, which adds up to access, which adds up to opportunity, right? So as you go into departments, sorry, I'm proud about this slide. I added this last night after I saw the alumni panel. I loved our alumni panel, and something that Deloitte said to me that I thought really stood out was, I don't disagree with it. Maybe college isn't for everybody, but I think the opportunity to go to college is for everybody. I think that I want our kids to leave here, and if they're like, hey, I don't want to go to college, I want to do X, Y, and Z, as long as they have the opportunity to say, I don't want to go to college because of this, not because they can't get in or they can't pay for it, I'm fine with that. It's about the opportunity to go to college, and then also if at 19 they decide, I do want to go to college, they can come back, talk to Lawson, and Lawson will have something to work with rather than like, kid, I don't know how to help you because I can't, there's too many barriers at this point. So it's really thinking around choice and opportunity and how these fit into each other. So as you go to departments, I'm gonna want to take any more time, I'm sorry, department chairs. Just thinking around this core idea that in order for us to address the opportunity gap that our kids have, and they have a lot of opportunity gaps, it's not achievement, it's opportunity, we need to constantly and strategically think and work with the access points to college, both getting in and then paying for it. So you're gonna go into your departments, and your department chairs have really great agendas, and they're gonna do some things. I just wanted to throw this kind of in the mix to have you marinate on a little bit, because I'd also really like some feedback and some ideas around growth, and I'd love anything you got. Come get a sucker and talk to me about it. Okay?